Tonight, there's a boys' own adventure on the banks of the Mississippi in mud.
Billy Crystal and John Goodman are the best and the brightest in Monsters University.
And Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson learn to Google it in the comedy The Internship. Hello.
Good evening.
Also tonight, Jean Moreau and Lane Maggi are strangers in a strange land in A Lady in Paris.
And there's an encore performance for veteran thespians in Alan Renee's You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet.
And we'll revisit the dawn of space travel in Philip Kaufman's The Right Stuff. But first, David, let's start with Monsters University.
Well, in this prequel to the 2001 Pixar success Monsters, Inc., we meet Mike Wazowski and Sullivan, voiced by Billy Crystal and John Goodman, respectively. Back in the days they were at college. Mike is the outsider who doesn't fit in and isn't considered to be very scary, but he studies hard to be a monster. While Sully, who comes from a famous monster family, is a slacker who coasts along on his father's reputation. They join Uzma Kappa, a fraternity of misfits, and enter the Scary Games program, facing expulsion by stern Dean Hardscrabble, Helen Mirren, if they lose.
Scariness is the true measure of a monster. If you're not scary, what kind of a monster are you? It's my job to make great students greater, not make mediocre students less mediocre. That is why, at the end of the semester, there will be a final exam. Fail that exam, and you are out of the scaring program. So, I should hope you're all properly inspired.
Though the animation is of the very highest order, with exceptional detail and often a strange kind of beauty in the depiction of these apparently lovable monsters, the plotting is routine and conventional, the overly familiar story of the outsiders who, against the odds, overcome. The script relies too much on talk, and the treatment feels laboured and longer than it actually is. It's wonderful to look at, but these characters were more interesting and more likeable the first time around. Well worth seeing, though, is the accompanying short film, The Blue Umbrella, a beautifully drawn, very sweet romance between a couple of umbrellas one rainy day. Margaret.
It's very cute, that
it's lovely,
short.
Yeah. Pixar does these really nice short films.
Yes, and beautifully imaginative and wonderfully achieved. I agree with you about Monsters University. I felt it just fell back on cliche, and what we've come to expect from Pixar are wonderful screenplays.
And originality.
Yes, and wit, and there's not a lot of it in here. And funnily enough, I thought Helen Mirren's voice was really wrongly chosen for the Dean. You know, it just didn't work for me.
She's sort of too gracious.
Yes,
yeah.
It's sort of, she's too regal,
yes.
Maybe.
All those connotations. Yeah.
So I was a bit underwhelmed, and it's all this American stuff of, the underdogs coming through.
It's so familiar, isn't it?
Winning
Such
in the
a
end.
cliche.
It's all this competitive winning stuff. No, and we knew where it was going all the time.
We sure
I'm
did.
giving it 3 stars.
Me too, 3 stars.
I'm Terry with a Y.
And I'm Terry with an I. I'm a dance major.
And I'm not.
5, 6, 7, 8. 7, 8, turn. And turn. Why didn't you turn?
Because we never agreed to do this.
You said this was going to be cool.
No one said this was going to be cool.
Now I'm embarrassed.
Now you're embarrassed.
Yes, because it's in front of people.
You should wake up embarrassed.
Hey! I'm Art, New Age philosophy major. Excited to live with you and laugh with you and cry with you. Thought you might like to keep a dream journal.
Monsters University opens nationally next week. Vince Vaughn is back, just as tall but maybe a bit jowlier, in a film he co-wrote with Jaron Stern, The Internship. He and co-star Owen Wilson play salesmen Billy and Nick, who find their style of shtick outmoded in the digital age. In an effort to reinvent their careers, they apply to Google for internships with no college degree and no computer skills. Surprisingly, they're accepted and find themselves in a team of other outcasts competing in various tests for an actual job. While Billy keeps up the shtick, constantly referencing the movie Flashdance as an inspiration to his team, Nick finds himself attracted to a Google executive, played by Rose Byrne.
Look, Nick, I gotta tell you, this is just never gonna happen.
This?
I mean...
Oh, no. This is me reaching out as an intern. They've encouraged us to approach experienced Googlers and just pick their brains.
I'm sorry. Of course.
You thought I was just, oh, who's this wanker?
Well, look, Sid here is incredible. Okay. Nick is desperate to learn. He'd love to come along. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it. Come on, everybody. Wait, where are you going?
Oh, I have a meeting. But you know that. Cheerio.
I found most of the internship extremely tedious, predictable, weak on wit, and I was particularly underwhelmed by Vaughan's motor-mouth character, one he seems to have perfected for himself. It was directed by Sean Levy, who is most probably best known for his Night at the Museum series, but even he can't elevate this material beyond the banal. Owen Wilson does have charm on screen, and his scenes with Rose Byrne are some of the better ones. But the cliches abound amongst the team members. There's the nerd, the mother-dominated Asian American, the socially removed character, and the boyfriendless girl, all of whom Billy and Nick liberate, wouldn't you know? And Max Minghella does his career no favours playing the snobby leader of a rival team. There are a few laughs here, but nowhere near enough. Or did you laugh?
No, I didn't. And it's amazing, isn't it, how similar the plot is to Monsters University. They're both about
Can the Americans only make one film now?
This whole idea of the team of misfits outsiders who, of course, are going to succeed in the end. One thing I did like about the internship was the little scene uncredited of Will Ferrell playing the boss of this mattress bed place.
See, I didn't even like that.
Well, there's something about Will Ferrell that amuses me because he has this sort of vicious persona, and I think he does those scenes really well. And I like the fact that Rose Byrne gets to talk with a Aussie accent for once in her life. But what a nothing role.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, what an ad for Google, really.
What an ad for Google,
because
absolutely.
They must have been very much on side.
Talk
to make
about
this.
Product placement, and they make the whole Google workplace look like heaven on earth.
Yes, like a kid's playground.
Yes.
What are you giving this?
Look, I was pretty bored with this too. I'm giving it 2.
I'm giving it 2 too.
Let's begin. Having a beer with your boss. Some of you are under 21.
Some of us aren't under 21, so if you want to grab a cold one with me, I'm happy to do that with you.
I will not be grabbing a cold one with you.
You get high?
I don't get high.
I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
That being said, if you want something cold to drink, we'll hook you up.
Okay, thank you. Just stop talking to me.
I'm your Bill Holden in Star Trek 17.
I really don't get that reference.
Google it.
Got it.
Dating a fellow intern. This is Google, not Match.com.
No, that's frowned upon also?
So we'll say no to love.
We'll say no to love, yes.
It's gonna be a no.
Is a one-night stand considered dating?
The internship opens around the country this week. Our next film is A Lady in Paris. Anne, morosely played by Lane Maggi, is a divorcee who lives what appears to be a miserable life in an ugly quarter of her hometown, Tallinn, Estonia, caring for her mother. When Mum dies, Anne gets an unexpected and pretty unlikely invitation to fly to Paris to care for an elderly Estonian exile there. This is the cranky, embittered Frida Jean Moreau. Neither lady is in for a very good time.
Qu'est-ce que Stéphane t'a raconté sur moi?
Excusez-moi, je croyais vous parler estonien.
Non. Il t'a raconté que j'étais une pauvre estonienne, seule et malade?
Non.
Bon. Alors tu vas lui dire que je n'ai besoin de personne. Tu vas aller faire tes valises. Et le plus vite fait, ce sera le mieux. Ne fais pas cette tête-là. Si tu es ici, je n'y suis pour rien. Enlève ce plateau.
Whoever devised the English title for this film completely missed the point. The French title means An Estonian Lady in Paris, and there are 2 of them, each one as grumpy as the other. Director Ilmar Raag seems fascinated by these characters, but really they're pretty poor company, both of them. What drama there is has to do with why Frida is estranged from the wider Estonian community in Paris, and also her relationship with Stéphane, Patrick Pinot, who runs a bar nearby. This is a very small film, a film in which the drama is so muted, it's practically non-existent. Margaret?
I liked it. I know that I'm not in the habit of liking morose-looking Eastern European
you always complain
women
about
wandering around a film. But I actually, maybe it's the fact that it's Paris. And I mean, it is, you know, the dowdy East European arriving in this city of fashion and light and love and, you know, it's a very predictable course, the cranky old woman, and both of them are going to benefit from the association with the other. And I quite liked Lena Magi, however you pronounce her name, and I'm sorry if we've got it wrong, as this woman. I thought she had a beautiful, calm stoicism to her. And it's also Paris. And I know he tried to avoid the cliches of the Arc de Triomphe and the Eiffel Tower, but it's the streets, and I just love being there again.
And it's also Jean Moreau,
Yes.
and of course she brings with her all these memories of Jules and Jim and all those great films. And,
she's a gutsy old thing, isn't she?
Yeah, well, it's good to see her still around. But even so, I couldn't summon up much enthusiasm for this. I'm giving it 2.
Oh no, I'm giving it 3.5.
Stéphane, ici présent, est le seul qui vienne me rendre visite régulièrement. Dernièrement, il vient surtout pour vérifier si je ne suis pas morte, mais je lui en veux pas.
Non, mais...
Il est adorable. Alors, dis à cette femme que cet appartement est bien mon appartement.
Oui, c'est ça.
Et que j'ai le droit d'avoir la clé de mon armoire à pharmacie dans mon appartement.
Que tu as des limites à mon affection pour toi.
Ah bon? Ton affection, et c'est pour ça que tu engages une immigrée pour me surveiller.
Mais t'es jamais contente.
A Lady in Paris opens in limited national release this week. Jeff Nichols is one of the more interesting filmmakers working in contemporary independent American cinema. After Shotgun Stories and Take Shelter, now comes Mud, set in the delta of the Mississippi in Arkansas, where 14-year-old Ellis, Ty Sheridan, and his mate Neckbone, Jacob Laughlin, find a boat up a tree on one of the islands in the river. But this island is not as deserted as they think. Their boat is actually inhabited by Mud, Matthew McConaughey, a man on the run from the police and from bounty hunters. While Nick is sceptical, Ellis is inspired by Mud's story of his problematic love for Juniper, Reese Witherspoon, and they both agree to help him with food and with plans for escape.
Now, I like you two boys. You remind me of me. Seeing as how you two is from Arkansas, and we know some of the same people, and we grew up in some of the same places, I reckon we can make a deal for something.
A deal for what?
Food. Food for a boat.
He's a bum, Ellis. Come on. Why don't you go get your own food?
Well, I would if I could. See, I told somebody I'd meet him here, so... Well, I'm stuck for now, and what I got's running low.
He's a bum, Ellis. Come on.
I ain't no bum. I got money, boy. You can call me a hobo, because a hobo work for his living. You can call me homeless, because, well, that's true for now. But you call me a bum again, I'm going to teach you something about respect your daddy never did.
This is such a lovely film with stunning performances from the two boys, Ty Sheridan and Jacob Laughlin, who so reminded me of a young River Phoenix. Matthew McConaughey, who could have been seen as a lightweight, is obviously taking his career seriously, and he's terrific as Mud. All the performances are solid, notably Sarah Paulson and Ray McKinnon as Ellis's troubled parents, Sam Shepard as their taciturn neighbour over the creek, and Michael Shannon as Neckbone's uncle. But it's Jeff Nichols' handling of the material that's masterful. Beautiful shots from cinematographer Adam Stone and a terrific music score by David Wingo. Nichols may want to wrap up each of the strands here with a too neat resolution, but this tale of a young man encountering adventures and some tough life lessons is a joy. David.
It is a lovely film. I've liked Jeff Nichols' other films, Shotgun Stories and Take Shelter, very much. And this is a little bit different, but it's also, because Shotgun Stories was also set in Arkansas, I think, and Take Shelter in Ohio, and so he loves exploring these regional areas of America and the evocation of this river, this mighty river with these little communities on the fringes of it with the rundown
the houseboat community, really.
Yeah, all of that.
It's like that.
He evokes that really, really well. And he's obviously inspired by Mark Twain because there's a lot of Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer in these boys. And he does it all really, really beautifully.
But do you know what I love? There is a moment in the film that is so poignant and heart-wrenching, you know, when Ellis is disillusioned. And to capture that moment so well and for an audience to be right in there in that moment with that kid. I just love filmmakers that can create moments like that.
I think the film is a little long. I think for what it is. I mean, it runs 2 hours 10 minutes or something. Could have been a little bit tightened.
And he needn't have done all that stuff at the end.
Neat at the end.
Yes.
Yeah. But still, I think it's a film of great quality. I'm giving it 3.5.
I think, you know, wonderful, wonderful performances. I'm giving it 4.
What are you doing out here like this, Mud?
I killed that last man she was with, Tom. He had it coming, too.
You have been dogging this girl your whole life. She's run you halfway across the country and back. And for what? For this? We stuck out here on this island like this? Begging? A murderer now? A thief?
I ain't no thief.
No, what would you call it then?
Mud opens in limited release this week. Alain Resnais has just turned 91, and the director of such masterpieces as Hiroshima Mon Amour and Last Year at Marienbad is still active, still making films to provoke, challenge and amuse. You Ain't Seen Nothin Yet is based on 2 plays by Jean Anouilh, Eurydice and Cher Antoine.
Hello?
At the start, a number of well-known French actors playing themselves, among them Lambert Wilson, Mathieu Amalric and Sabine Azema, receive phone calls from a lawyer who tells them their friend Antoine, a playwright, is dead. They're summoned to his home where a suave butler, André Severin, stage manages events, including a film of the dead man, Denis Podalides, explaining that a young experimental theatre group is producing his play Eurydice. All the invited guests performed in productions of the play in the past, and they become involved in the new project.
Merci d'être venu à ce rendez-vous bizarre où je ne serai pas. Aujourd'hui, je m'en remets à vous avec la plus grande insistance pour être mes exécuteurs testamentaires.
This is a very rarefied film from Resnais, and not an easily accessible one if you're not familiar with the original plays. It's a showcase for a fine collection of actors, and they enter into the spirit of the piece with enthusiasm. But acting is the key word. Despite the director's efforts to lighten the material with wily, sophisticated humour, it all feels very theatrical and stagey. At Cannes last year, it was suggested that this might be Resnais's final film, but he's just completed a new one with the promising title Love, Drink and Sing. But Margaret, I'm curious to know what you thought of You Ain't Seen Nothin Yet.
Well, it starts and it's so intriguingly set up that you are entranced. It's a conceit. You have this wonderful old director, you know, basically manipulating his cast within the theatre, you know, the theatre and the film. So it's a double whammy, really. Yeah. And in a way, you sort of want somewhere along the line to enter into the personal, the heart of this. Yeah. But it's always on that intellectual level that I thought ultimately became quite dull. So I was really disappointed in a way. And the director insisted on this strange title, You Ain't Seen Nothin Yet. I mean, what's that all about?
I think it's interesting because I think René, from the very beginning of his career, has always been interested in memory and in the impact of the past on the present. And that, in a way, is what this is all about.
Yeah, but
too.
he doesn't really come to grips with...
Well, he doesn't present it on a personal level.
No.
It's more kind of remote and theatrical, really.
Well, yeah, you know, I mean, there's no connection with the plays with the personal.
No, that's right, yeah. So I like you, I think, I found it a bit frustrating too.
Yeah.
I'm giving it 3. What about you?
I'm giving it 2.5.
Dis donc, fiston, c'est bien triste ce que tu joues. C'est triste aussi ce que je pense. À quoi penses-tu? À toi. À moi, allons donc. Et qu'est-ce que tu vas me dire encore? Je pense que depuis que maman est morte, je te suis aux terrasses des cafés avec mon violon. Je pense que depuis que maman est morte, je te suis aux terrasses des cafés avec mon violon. Je te regarde te débattre avec tes additions le soir. Je t'écoute parler du menu du prix fixe. Et puis je me couche et je me relève le lendemain.
Quand tu auras mon âge, tu sauras que c'est ça la vie.
You Ain't Seen Nothin Yet opens in limited national release this week. And on our website is an interview with actors Sabine Ozma and Lombard Wilson. Now, there are moments in films that stay with you forever. And I've never forgotten the awe I felt in The Right Stuff when John Glenn, the astronaut, takes off to become the first American to orbit Earth in a spacecraft. It is completely magical. The film from 1983, directed by Philip Kaufman, is an adaptation of Tom Wolfe's book about the conquering of speed in space and space itself. It pits Sam Shepard as Chuck Yeager, ace test pilot with the Air Force, who remained almost unrecognised for his amazing bravery in conquering the sound barrier against the hoo-ha that surrounded the 7 men who were selected as astronauts in America's nascent space program in the early 1960s. The film was eventually produced by the Ladd Company after United Artists, the original studio, ran into trouble after Heaven's Gate. The original script was by William Goldman, who wanted to write a patriotic piece, but the final script credit goes to Kaufman, who decided to incorporate Chuck Yeager's story as a key to these men who had the right stuff. There's so much to say about this film, the amount of research that went into getting the right aircraft, the querying of its accuracy, but it's sublimely put together by Kaufman, seamlessly incorporating real footage into his recreation of an era. I'll leave it to Sam Shepard as Yeager to explain after astronaut Gus Grissom lands amidst controversy.
These astronauts are our Davids.
But you think the public would know they're just doing what monkeys have done?
Monkeys? You think a monkey knows he's sitting on top of a rocket that might explode? These astronaut boys, they know that, see? I'll tell you something. It takes a special kind of man to volunteer for a suicide mission, especially when it's on TV.
Kennedy has called the flight a total success.
Oh, Gus, he did all right.
Though the capsule was lost, our new hero, astronaut Gus Grissom, was saved. And now President Kennedy has started an even more ambitious space program.
Those who came before us made certain that this country rode the first waves of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power.
The cast includes not only Sam Shepard, but also Dennis Quaid as Gordo Cooper, Ed Harris as John Glenn, Scott Glenn as Alan Shepard, and Fred Ward as Grissom. The film has a slightly satirical tinge to it as it deals with the politics and the media. But nothing takes away from the extraordinary bravery of these young men and their camaraderie in the face of extreme danger. It's so wonderful, this film. It's over 3 hours long. I don't care. Kaufman used every moment wonderfully. David.
I think Kaufman is one of the most underrated directors of recent times. And I think this is a really interesting film because he's dealing with a new frontier where Americans are going out into this dangerous world.
Well, in competition with the Russians too.
But in a large sense, he's comparing it to the old frontier, to the old West, and the pioneers of that. And there's so much of the film that is evocative of Westerns. John Ford is referenced in a couple of funerals. Barbara Hershey plays a woman who could have been in a Howard Hawks Western
Yes.
very easily.
Absolutely.
So and Sam Shepard, drinks in a cowboy bar and talks cowboy talk and all that sort of stuff. And I love,
rides up on his horse and they race through them.
I love the way Kaufman does all that, and I also love the sequence in Australia with David.
Yes,
Golphin.
I wanted to incorporate.
That is just such a wonderful, spellbinding scene.
It is.
But there's so much in this film. I love the way he deals with the media. I love the character played by Royal Dano as the minister. Who's there's so much going on here, and I think it's a great choice, Margaret. I'm pleased to see it again.
I just loved seeing it again. And this is part of the scene that is inspirational in the film.
It is pretty amazing stuff, the right stuff. And next week we'll be looking at something very different, Ozu's Tokyo Story.
And that's the show for tonight, so good night from us.
Good night.